If you are anything like me and are just happy to have friends that have elk meat in the freezer, hint, hint, then you got a home here. Welcome to The Go Show. And you can find us on social media, facebook.com/The Go Show with Mike Russell, and on Instagram at The Go Show with Mike Russell, YouTube, Go Outdoors with Mike Russell, where you can see this video of this devilishly handsome man. This is Slavo himself of Slavo Salt Seasoning. Slavo Stevens is joining us. And the reason why I have Slavo here today is because he impressed the pants off me, not literally, but he really impressed me when he said he was going to go on an 18-day hunt. He had an elk tag and a deer tag. Basically, he was going to hunt for elk, but if deer got in the way, he was going to take that down. And he was just going to kind of Bear Grylls-ish go at it and not come back till he had something. It didn't take him 18 days, and he got something. Welcome, buddy. It's good to have you here.
Hey, Mike. How are you, buddy?
I'm excited to hear this story, and I'm going to walk you through it because I'm taking you back. Not even when you left for the hunt, not when you came to the house, grabbed the jumping jack, none of that. I want to go all the way back to where you got this bloody idea. Are you watching too much Sportsman's Channel?
100%. Way too much Cam Hanes, way too much Remy Warren in my life. It had been about 8 years since I got drawn for my first elk tag. And that was, when I really got into hunting was about 10 years ago. So late onset hunter, and went out that first time 8 years ago, had absolutely no clue what the heck I was doing. It was like, in retrospect, it was an awful hunt. Like, everything I did was wrong. And, so I had 8 years to think about it. And along that period, I picked up archery. Yeah. And as you know, full on like addict.
It was, come on. It wasn't, I don't think it was hard for you to get addicted to it, because I will admit this, you are one of the most natural shooters with a bow I've seen in my life. I've dealt with, all ages letting them throw their first arrow, and I've never seen somebody just drop arrows where he wants them and then look at me and say, what am I supposed to do with these pin thingies here? What am I supposed to move these things around? And I said, you're not even on a pin. He's like, no, I'm just putting the middle of it like somewhere. And you were, you have a gift, my friend. You do have a gift. So, okay. So obviously you saw early success with a bow, and then you started seeing more and more success because you actually practice at it.
I do. I'm really fortunate. We've got a big backyard. We live here in Central Phoenix, and, got I can shoot 75 yards corner to corner in my backyard. And since COVID, I work from home, which has accelerated the addiction and the amount of practice. So the bow sits at my back door. I bring it in every night. In the morning, I go let the chickens out, take the bow out. And then throughout the day, I shoot anywhere from 20 to 100 arrows a day, probably.
Okay, hold on. No, we're not going to paint over this. You let the chickens out like I let my dogs out? What are you talking about? Are the chickens in your house?
No, so we've got a chicken coop out in the backyard, and I've got a 6-year-old daughter, and I grew up on a farm, wanted her to experience raising animals and taking care of things, and I love eggs, and there's nothing better than fresh eggs. And so, we got a handful of chickens in the backyard. Let them out. They cruise around the yard, eat the bugs and weeds. And, they're little cartoon characters.
Okay. I bet they are. So letting out the door. Okay. So let's get back to archery, because this is not an FFA show. So we're with Slavo Stevens of Slavo Salt Seasoning. You find him at slavosalt.com. Use the code GOSHOW. Get you a discount on the action. And trust me, you're going to want more and more and more. So Slavo, you're into archery. So this is where this leads. You start the kind of 8 years of thinking about how garbage your first elk hunt was. and then you switch to archery and you start studying it. You become a student of what this is. What did you learn you did wrong besides everything? What were the core components you did wrong first time that you learned in your studies?
The big thing was like blatantly wandering around the woods. I'm a big hiker, so I'm not afraid to put miles on, which is a blessing and a curse. And so, just crunching around the woods, not paying attention to where I'm stepping, not paying attention to the wind. Learning the wind that's why I got the elk this year. 100% of constantly being in the back of my mind, having my little powder bomb thing in my bino harness and checking it like every 10 steps. I just realized that on that first hunt, there was no method to it. There was no, looking at OnX, creating my plan based on what I had seen through glassing, through scouting. And it was just like wandering around.
Yeah. By the way, I learned to hunt in the Midwest. So my first hunt out here is like, what do you mean we're getting out of the truck? Where are we going? I go, is there a blind over here? Wait. What do you mean we're just going to walk up to the top of the hill and look through our binoculars? What kind of garbage is this? Who set the blinds up? There are no blinds. What are you talking about? Yeah. So I'm blown away that you even had to walk when I got here to Arizona.
Yeah. I went to school in Texas and had a lot of friends. I remember pretty early in school, went on to a buddy's deer camp, and we had partied all night, and he dropped me off the next morning before sunrise. He's like, your blind's over there. The feeder's over there. It's going to go off in about 45 minutes. Here's a pack of smokes and a bottle of whiskey. Shoot a big one. And I was like, wait, what? And I had been on some deer hunts in Arizona. I was like, man, that's not hunting. Take me back. Like, I'm not gonna hunt like that.
And by the way, we're not advocating the bottle of whiskey and the smokes. So
I'm sober now, so I can talk about how ridiculous that was.
The thoughts of Slavo Stevens are not necessarily those of the Go Show or iHeartMedia.
Exactly. Yeah. Attorney disclaimer.
So, all right. So let's get to the before we break here. Let's get to the book, and we're with Slavo Stevens, Slavo Salt Seasonings. It went on an amazing hunt that we're about to learn about. But there was a guy that the author that challenged you.
Yeah. So the book is called Comfort Crisis, and I read it this past summer. I'm a big reader, and it's the premise of the book is the author is a journalist, outdoors journalist. And he goes on a 31-day caribou hunt up in the Arctic. And it's all in the hunt portion is a really small part of the book. My wife, who is basically anti-hunter, loved this book. So anybody who's listening, who's not super into it, it's a very small fraction of the book. But the whole premise of the book is how, as humans, we become soft. And we don't challenge ourselves, and it's led to a life of relative unhappiness and depression. And, we're missing a lot of those core things that in our DNA as hunter and gatherers, we don't do anymore. And, it was all about how you need to go out and you need to put yourself in situations where you have a high likelihood of failure. But if you succeed, it's going to be, mind blowing.
Okay.
And, I had this elk tag in my pocket as I'm reading this book, and I'm like, okay, this is my challenge. I'm going to go out and I have a 14-day hunt. I had a deer tag the weeks prior to that. I'm going to go out there and I'm not going to come back until I come back with an animal. Mind you, the biggest animal I've ever killed up to that point is a coyote out on the farm. I've never killed a deer.
Oh,
never. Yeah, I shot coyotes and birds.
I thought the whiskey and smokes hunt would have at least found you something.
No, I refused to go hunt because I was not sportsman.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. All right.
I was uppity back then, even having not killed something.
Okay, now this is Slavo Stevens, Slavo Salt Seasoning. He went on a fantastic hunt. We just learned how he got the idea, the Comfort Crisis, fantastic book. Apparently, you need to go get that, and you need to get yourself some Slavo Salt. You get it on slavosalt.com, and you can use the code GOSHOW. It's going to get you a discount on your order. So coming back, what I'm going to do is ask Slavo how he pitched this to the War Department, how he actually talked to his wife about leaving him and his 6-year-old daughter
Acts like a
behind.
son.
What's full send? We can get into that later, right here on the Go Show.
Yeah.
And welcome back to the award-winning Go Show. Darn right, we won an award. Slavo Stevens of Slavo Salt Seasoning is slavosalt.com. Use the code GOSHOW. What is with? Hold on, I have to have some coffee. Hang tight, everybody.
Hydrate, Mike. Hydrate.
Man, I tell you, sometimes you got to get things straightened out. The mind starts going and mouth tries to catch up. Anywho, this is a program about the outdoors. We celebrate all things outdoors in this beautiful outdoor playground of a state that we live in. And Slavo went on a hunt, and this is a hunt. So, well, recap super quick. Book Comfort Crisis sparked this idea of go on an adventure or a challenge that has maybe a 50-70% failure rate and challenge yourself to do something. So you had the elk tag, thought an 18-day hunt, let's do that. And then there's this fantastic woman named Shannon.
Yes.
And this I'm trying to picture the conversation of how you pitched this to your wife. So please, Slavo, you have the floor. I want every detail.
So, Mike, Shannon well. We're a pretty aggressive household.
Yes.
We are not wallflowers. We're not afraid of challenges or doing kind of wild things. And that's, why our daughter Sloan, her nickname is Full Send, because that's just kind of how we are. We like to do hard stuff. And we like to challenge ourselves. And, so I had this hunt, and typically when we go, my family, we go get these tags, and it's like a long weekend basically. Mm-hmm. And, I went to her and I was like, look, it's been 8 years since I got to hunt elk. This doesn't happen every day in Arizona. You see that I am putting in the work, every single day, shooting the bow, teaching my daughter to shoot the bow, teaching my daughter about conservation and why we hunt. I want to do this. This is something, I go with my uncle and my father, who are both in their 70s. I don't know how many more years I'm going to be able to do something like this with them. And this is something that I really want to do. And she's like, okay, yeah. Oh, well, what do you think? And I go, I'm going to go till I get one. And she's like, well, you never get one. Yeah. There's also a lot of trash talk
right in the hurt pills. Ouch.
Yeah. And to her point, she's right. I mean, I've been on, I don't know how many dang deer hunts, and I never get one.
Yeah.
And rarely even get a shot off. And so I was like, yeah, I know, but I'm going to do everything within my control to make this happen. Okay. So I'm practicing shooting every day. I'm shooting, climbing up in Sloan's playhouse, doing, down angle shots, putting the target up on the roof of her playhouse, shooting uphill, which is, unless you're, pretty confident with the bow, don't do that, because.
Yeah, I would say that I'm sure she wasn't in the playhouse, but I know the Slavos, so she might have been. You never know. Just probably
she certainly wanted
the entire time. Yeah, Yeah, Dad, I want to see the arrow go over my head.
Yeah,
she's fantastic.
And along with that, I of controlling what I can control, I was like, I'm going to get into the best shape of my life. I'm going to take the physical component out of it. I'm a big fan of Cam Haynes. That dude's a total freaking psycho.
Yeah, he's nuts.
Yeah, and David Goggins is another guy who I really like their mental mindsets of just getting after it. And so, since when I got that tag, I always hiked with a pack with water and stuff. I bought a 50-pound bladder that I could fill with 50 pounds of water. And I was hiking, up to 20 miles a week in the mountain preserve by our house with a 50-pound pack, with the whole goal of I could care less about having a 6-pack. I wanted to be able to carry an elk quarter 10 miles and not break a sweat.
All right.
And so when I was talking to her, I'm telling her, like, look, I'm not going at this thing half cocked. Like, I'm going to go and do everything I can do to make this successful. And she, fortunately I had a few months of runway to, warm her up to this.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And, by August, she, she'd taken the hook and, she's like, oh, he's going to be gone for a month. But, she was cool with it.
And, of course she was. And by the way, I didn't want to paint her as someone that wouldn't be. I just know you, and then the kind of this process and this ramp and build up. So I wanted to hear how you were doing it. She probably would have told you something going out the door. And I probably think this is going to be part of the story that she says, just don't come back without one.
Yeah.
Oh, and dead serious. Like, deadpan. Yeah.
Yeah. She's, you've got a pass here. Mm-hmm. Execute, I think is what what she said. And and that was, and the other thing about this, Mike, is I told a bunch of people, I work for a tech company, I run a sales team. We're at the end of Q3, taking basically 3 weeks off the last month of a quarter is not something that's super common. And so I had told a bunch of people that, hey, I'm going out. I'm not coming back till I get it. And so I had that pressure and motivation in the back of my mind of like, okay, dude, people are expecting you to either come back emaciated and, like Survivor coming out of the woods, or, coming back with a trophy mount hanging over my head.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it was the latter.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that. I definitely want to get to that. But everyone is listening to the show, and this is the Go Show. We celebrate all things outdoors in this beautiful outdoor playground of the state that we live in. We're talking with Slavo Stevens of Slavo Salt Seasonings and about his amazing adventure that he just went on. And if you know anything about me, I'm saying there's no reason at all to not eat well, drink well, and sleep well in the outdoors. You need to be comfortable. You need to enjoy. Restorative sleep is super, super important. So this guy's talking about going and putting himself in one of the most dangerous positions that a human can. You're an ecotourist. You're going in a place where you aren't 100% familiar with. You're familiar with the terrain, maybe the environment, but you're really, this isn't, your neighbor's house. So he's putting himself in a dangerous situation. And me, as a good friend, I only cared about his sleeping comfort. That's all I cared about. I'd be like, okay, as long as he sleeps well, that's fine. So I wanted him to take my jumping jack because I thought that would probably be the highest of comfort you would go when you had this in your mind's eye. I was so very excited when you called and said, okay, I'm going to take you up on that offer. And I'm like, yes, okay, good. So at least I know the dude's going to be sleeping off the ground and get some dang rest at night, because that is important. I know you Peloton like a mad dog. You're hiking with a 50-pound pack and you super shape, but you still need some damn good sleep.
100%. Yeah. And thank you for waking me up to that, because in my, delusions of grandeur, I was like, yeah, I'm going to this is going to be hardcore. I'm going to sleep in a tent. I have a 2-man backpacking tent.
Yeah.
With a light, 2-inch foam pad. I'm like, and you're like, man, that's a bad idea. You need to take the trailer. And as I started thinking, I'm like, the longest I've slept in that tent was 4 or 5 days, and I was basically a cripple coming out of it.
Yeah.
And 18 days, like, I'm not even going to be able to hunt, halfway through. I'm going to be so broken up. So yeah, I took you up on the jumping jack. Holy cow. That thing is incredible. Absolutely. I pull it with a forerunner like it wasn't even there. The setup is stupid easy. I had room galore, had a table. I mean, the only thing it didn't have is a crapper. And, hey, I like digging a hole. Like, that's one fun thing about camping is, doing your business with a good view.
And you don't have to spray. Everything smells like pine. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's already there. Okay, now we're going to take a quick break. I want to get into the actual hunt. I want to get into the actual preparation days before, day of, and then boom, it's go time. We're meeting with Slavo Stevens. He has had an amazing adventure, an amazing elk hunt where he challenged himself and was rewarded. It's coming up next on the Go Show. Stay right there. And thank you so much for being with us. This is the Go Show, celebrating all things outdoors in this beautiful outdoor playground of the state that we live in. Find us on social media, facebook.com/The Go Show with Mike Russell, Instagram @The Go Show with Mike Russell, and Go Outdoors with Mike Russell on YouTube. You can see this video where with Slavo Stevens. Yes, that's Slavo from Slavo Salt Seasoning. The man walks the walk. He challenged himself with a 18-day scheduled elk hunt. And I'm talking just go until you get something. We've brought us right up to the part where you've now accepted accommodations for sleeping in the jumping jack. So fantastic. So let's talk about the day before. Let's talk about the preparation. Is it mental prep more than it is gear prep, or gear prep and just hasn't really hit you yet?
So the gear prep, that's something that fortunately I've been kind of piecing along, having the right equipment. Like, I've got glass, I've got good, decent glass, boots and pack. Like, if anybody's wanting to go and do a serious hunt like this in the mountains, like, super fast and light Under Armour boots are neat for like desert hunting. I was in Unit 27 south of Alpine in the Bear Wallow Wilderness, and that is probably the roughest country I've been in on any hunt, and certainly in the state of Arizona. I mean, it looks like a nuclear bomb has gone off 10 years ago. So there's deadfall of massive ponderosas. And then now there are these aspen clusters that are impenetrable, and they're 12 to 15 feet tall.
Dang.
And man, it was just insanely rugged territory. So boots. I will forever wear Schnee's mountain boots.
Never even heard of it.
Little company out of Montana. The Meat Eater guys are real high on them. So I looked at those and Crispies. I got these things out of the box last deer season, put on 12 miles the first day and didn't have a blister. Literally out of the box. I was like, okay, this is it.
You're going to send me that link, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, for sure. My boots are ready for retirement.
Yeah, dude, these things are, and they're great for cold and hot. So boots, you gotta, if your feet are beat up, you're not going to hunt. You're not going to want to go out and hunt. You're not going to go over that next ridge. And typically what I've found is that next ridge is where the animals are.
Yep. Always the last place you look.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, equipment was all pretty well in stocks in place. Food was a big thing. So being a former chef, my dad and uncle have grown accustomed to exceptional camping cuisine. I think it would be fair to say.
Yes.
My sister's like, well, how long is dad going to be out there? I was like, well, until he'll be there until the good food, the ice, or the booze runs out. Whichever one of those runs out first, he's going to pull the ripcord. She's like, well, how much food do you have? And I was like, well, I've got steaks and pork, fresh meats and stuff in the heavy cooler. That'll last me about a week and a half. And then I've got freeze dried like Mountain House.
Yeah, right.
And my sister we've done Havasupai and stuff. And she goes, yeah, nobody needs to eat. You're not an astronaut. Nobody needs to eat freeze dried food.
Amen.
But
it goes back to comfort. You don't need to be uncomfortable in the outdoors, and you shouldn't be uncomfortable in the outdoors. If you can eat well, eat well. Drink well, drink well. Yes, sleep well.
Having good coolers, that's a game changer for the canyons, Arctics, those Yeti guys, whatever. Those things are game changers. They're worth their money. I did throw my back out the last morning loading.
I'm going to leave that out, you old man. I was going to say, I'm trying to make you sound like a warrior here. And you're like, yeah, threw my back out, moving the cooler.
Hey, dude, it happened on the last morning. I'm packing the car up. I'm okay thank God it didn't happen the first morning when I was unloading it by myself off your trailer.
Yes. Okay, good. Yes.
So yeah, food is critical. Gear is critical. I get out there. Like I said, I had a deer tag in same unit. I get out there on Monday, Labor Day, get set up and just start walking around. And I spent 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days, basically just boot packing around, looking for deer, looking for sign, obviously looking for elk. And if a deer got in the way, that was going to be neat. Right. I did not see anything. I saw 2 bucks. One, my ears were bigger than its antlers. And then another one that was a massive one, but he spotted me and he was way away and there was no chance. Saw a ton of doe, and I saw 3 raghorns on, I think, Wednesday. But what concerned me is this is a rut hunt that I'm going into, and I didn't see a single cow.
All right, so hold on a second. Just for the new guard, just so everybody knows, rut hunt, that is mating season. So that's what a rut hunt is. There's Barry White playing all through the woods. It's fantastic. So you can, but understand it's a very desirable hunt because the males, the bucks, are stupid. The bulls are dumb. They're just walking. Hi, you're pretty girl. That's all they care about. They don't care. Like, what's this 2-legged hairless ape over here? I don't care. I'm just gonna go over here because there's a pretty girl and I can smell her. Oh, they smell pretty. Yeah, that's what a rut hunt is.
Yeah. And they're vocal. Like, if you've never been in the woods during September, during the rut, it sounds like it's Jurassic Park. Like, there are T-Rexes running around the woods. My wife is so sick of me being on Instagram, listening to elk bugle videos and just being like, it's a whole thing. But so this is the epitome. This is the epitome of archery hunting for big game in the US, and they're fired up. And up till this point, I hadn't heard a single bugle.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no cows and no bugles. Mm-mm. And so I'm sitting there going, oh crap. These things, once the rut does kick off, whatever bulls are here, they're out.
Yep.
They're going to go chase the cows wherever the heck they are. And I heard they had all gone up north into Unit 1. So, man, it's an emotional roller coaster. And by this point, by Thursday morning, I had covered 20 plus miles.
Yeah, I bet.
And that's not, manicured groom trails. That is, that's 20 miles of rolling your ankle on volcanic rock and stepping in holes and, thorn bushes and all that stuff. And so by Thursday, I'm kind of like, oh God, this is going to be just a suck fest.
Yeah.
And
That's
I think
mentally taxing. That beats you up. It
it
really
is.
does. Even if you're on for a long weekend hunt and you're just you only have a certain amount of time, it mentally kicks you right in the gut.
It is. And like we've talked about this, David Goggins, if your listeners have not read Can't Hurt Me, he's a former Navy SEAL, Delta. The guy is like, he's done everything you can do. And now he runs ultra marathons. He's a complete psycho. But he is like Shannon, my wife, like we'll be hiking and all of a sudden I'll kick it into another gear. And she's like, Goggins is talking to you, huh? And I have this little Goggins on my shoulder and it's like saying really terrible, crass things that I'm pretty sure iHeart would.
Yeah, please don't. We're not going to repeat that. Nope.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And in his book, it's all about mental fortitude and just being mentally strong. And so I had, thank God I was a student of that, that stuff. And so I'm going, okay, this is going to be a suck fest. Dude, you told 100 people you're not coming back till you got an elk.
That's right. Now you have not just Goggins, you have 100 people talking to you at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, okay, let's, hey.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah. I've got 15 days. Let's do this.
All right. So we're going to get to the 15 days. Now we're going to get to we're going to get to the day that you saw something. Yes. Yeah. And we're going to get to full draw. We're going to go to it all. It's about to get absolutely crazy with Slavo Stevens and his elk hunt, his archery hunt. Trust me, I've heard the story. It's worth it. Stick around. More on the Go Show coming up. And we continue with Slavo Stevens, and it is time. It is time for the actual hunt day. Now, he's been hunting for days and days on end at this point, mentally taxed, physically taxed, and then this is the day he sees his bull. Let's talk us through it, man. Show us what you got.
Yeah, so, we had it was the second day of the hunt. The first day we covered about 6 miles and 2,000 foot of elevation gain, just grinding. And my hunting partner was incredible. He's a guy that works with me. Background on that is I told it, when I got that tag, I was like, look, I handle the shooting. Your job is to call. So I was like, you buy whatever calls you want. I will reimburse you, but you are my caller.
All right.
And, Renee, hell of a job, buddy. So he did it. And so we hike our butts off the first day, get on some, they give us the slip, the next day, that night we're in camp. We're like, okay, plan A, plan B, and plan C. And this goes back to like what I was saying earlier, like you got to have a plan. It's like, number one, we're beating out everybody to the trailhead. Because when we came out of the woods the day before, there were like 8 trucks in the area and side by sides. We didn't see anybody, but at the trailhead, when we got there, nobody. When we left, a ton of people. And I was like, okay, well, some of those guys my dad was talking to them at the trailhead and they're guides. I was like, well, if there's guides in this area, then we got to be pretty well in the right zone.
Hey, yeah, right.
So, 4:45, Renee and I are at the trailhead. It is pitch black. We're suiting up. Okay, we had worked the southern ridge line. I was like, okay, Thursday night we had saw a bull with cows on this north ridge. But the day before we were heading that way and we saw a side by side. We were like, and that's something I want to talk about is hunter courtesy. Yes, It is public land. We all own it, but particularly archery, it's not easy. Like that's a really hard dang thing to do. And if you see somebody set up, whether it's on a water hole or they went in a specific direction, like, dude, give them space. These units in Arizona in particular are massive. There's land everywhere. Like, so we saw that guy, we backed out and we headed back south. So on the second morning, we're like, we're going north and we're going to beat that guy there. So get there, full darkness, we're creeping through with our red headlamps along a old logger road. And I don't want to hear crap from anybody about road hunting because there's no car or four-wheeler, getting on this road. And we're walking along and Renee, my hunting partner, goes, I smell one. And we're about 3/4 of the mile on into the hike. And we just stop and it's pitch black. And we're kind of looking around and we see this tan blob, 100 yards or so in the darkness, but it's a tan thing in a bunch of dark. And all of a sudden the T-Rex scream of just, and both of us are just like, in our minds, it's like, oh my God, it's going to happen. This is it.
Yes,
it's there. And a second bull fires off, 75 yards further down the ring. We're like, we're
surrounded.
And dude, so like, again, mind you, I've never killed a big game. And so I'm like very conscious of, I need to stay calm. I need to I got a job to do here. And one of the biggest things why I practice so much is I have this incredible fear of wounding and losing an animal.
Yep.
Like that's something that I wouldn't handle well. And so we are, it's pitch too dark. And so I look at Renee, I'm like, do not effing move. So we sit there and we watch the blob kind of work his way up out of this meadow along these trees. Gets a little closer to shooting light, the sun, and I go, okay, man, you hide right here behind this ledge, get both your cow calls out. And when I give you the signal, I'm going to sneak up into those ferns up there. And I want you to sound like two cows chatting it up.
What was the signal when you get this? Was it caw, caw?
It's the old dude. It's the old cowboy.
That's awesome.
And that dude, that was it. I was like, and he knew what it was.
Scientific as we got.
Yeah, we don't kill anything, but we are really good hunting partners. He and I, nice. And that's something else, man. You got to have somebody. Kudos to those guys who go out and do it solo. Like that's hardcore.
Yeah.
Having somebody that you trust and has the same motivation as you in the field is huge. So he hunkered down and I went about 30 yards uphill and I was crouched down in this thicket of ferns and I give him the old, and he mew, sure as, on point. That guy throws a huge T-Rex scream and I'm crouched down. We're on radio, so I don't know why I'm like mimicking it.
No, we're on video too. You can find.
Okay, cool. I'm
glad you got it, but
I'm glad I shaved my terrible mustache from the hunt.
I'm
hunkered down in these ferns, looking through the foliage, and all I can see are these white tips coming directly at me. And he stops about 10 yards, and so the bull, myself, and then Renee are all basically in a straight line. And I'm starting to realize, like, okay, I didn't plan this well. This thing's going to literally walk right over me. And so I'm on my knees thinking, okay, can I lay back? I haven't practiced. I've practiced every shot scenario except laying on my back,
Yeah.
shooting directly up into this thing's
Right.
cavity.
Wow.
And Renee throws out a couple more little mews. Fortunately, the bull turns and goes horizontal uphill. And as he's doing that, I have to kind of pivot on my knees. And he comes to a stop and looks uphill opposite of me.
Okay.
And so when he does that, I come to full draw. And I don't know if I made a noise, or I'm sure I did. Come to full draw, he whips his head around, and he and I are like
staring at each other,
eye to eye. And wow. I am, full draw, locked in. And you and I have talked about the whole buck fever thing, Mike. I don't know how many conversations. And I remember sitting there looking at him and looking at my hand and going, holy crap, my hand's not even shaking.
and I was with me.
And I was just baffled by it. I was like, that's crazy. I was like, okay, wait, back to the hunt.
Back to the elk. Yeah.
He and I, what felt like 5 minutes probably was 30 seconds or eye to eye. Renee blows another call. He turns, takes one step forward, stops, looking towards Renee, and I mean, the smack was
echo.
The best damn sound I've ever heard.
I bet.
And
just thumped him.
I'm shooting from my knees right over the tops of all this foliage. I'm like, I felt really good, and it was a 20-yard shot. We came back and marked it off, and it was exactly 20 yards uphill. This is a great part. The shot hits, he blows out and goes 10 yards forward and then does a 90-degree turn, full steam downhill. And so Renee hears the shot, and he pops up to look and see what's going on. And he and this bull are eye to eye. Whoa. And this bull's going full steam at him. Oh. And Renee's a short, little heavy guy. And he's like, my legs froze. He's like, I was going to die. And at the last minute, this bull veers and turns away from Renee. Long story short, runs 75 yards, dies in a beautiful meadow, double lung, 6x6, got my bull.
Slavo Steven, SlavoSalt.com. You got to get over there, get that. Use promo code Go Show. Man, what an amazing hunt. Thanks for sharing your story. More coming up on the Go Show. Hang tight.